Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I have video 4 of my how to basic series. This video is all about eyeshadow, so blending, technique, brushes, shadow colors, things like that. If you want to learn how to get the perfect eyeshadow look, then just keep watching. To start off with eyeshadow, before you apply any eyeshadow, you always want to prime your eyelids. So as you can see, I have my base done. So I have bronzer, blush, highlight, everything, foundation, concealer, but I have nothing on my eyelids. That's why they're so dark. That's my natural color. You always want to go in with a primer because it will give a nice blank canvas for you to work on. If you were to just go straight in with eyeshadow on this dark color, the eyeshadows wouldn't show up as they do on the pan. They would look a lot different. They wouldn't be as vibrant. They would look dull. So you always want to make sure you go in with a primer. This is MAC's Soft Ochre Paint Pot. It looks just like this. This is an actual eye primer. I also have the Urban Decay eye primer. This is the anti-aging one. And then this is the Too Faced Shadow Insurance primer. This is a little baby one. But if you don't own any actual primers, you could always go in with your concealer. My concealer is a Tarte Shape Tape. So you would just put a little dot, blend it out, and set it with a powder, and that works just as well. For my eye primer, I'm going to go in with the MAC Soft Ochre Paint Pot and my Morphe M517 brush. This is a very tightly dense brush. It's in a good shape, so I just grab a tiny bit of this and I apply it all over my eyelid. You don't want to put too much eye primer on because then it can make your eye look cakey and the shadows won't blend evenly. So you always want to make sure you have an even coat all around. And you also want to put a very thin layer on, just enough that it'll cancel out any discoloration you have. Once the eye primer is all blended, you want to go in and set it with a powder just so then it won't crease, because when your eye like sets in, you see the line I have right here, over time with the shadow, like this area will ball up since I do have oily eyelids, and then I'll have eye primer in some places and I won't in others. So you always want to make sure you set it with a powder. I'm going to go in with my Wet n Wild Mega Glow Contouring Palette with the beige shade and my e.l.f. setting brush, and I'm just going to set them very lightly. Now that my eyelids are set, I'm going to show you a few of my favorite eyeshadow palettes. Personally, I am more of a warm toned eyeshadow gal. I don't really like cool tones. I feel like they make my face look a little dead. So my all-time favorite eyeshadow palette is the Tarteist Pro palette. This one is absolutely gorgeous. It's a lot of warm tones. It also has some cool tones if you were to like want to add some in. It's just a good mixture of everything. So this is my absolute favorite palette. My second favorite palette is the Tarte in Bloom palette. This one is a really good like take with you on the go because it's a lot smaller. And it has all the shades you need. I also like the Morphe 35O palette. This is one of the well-loved palettes here on YouTube. It's really, really pretty. But for today's video, I'm going to show you how to blend your eyeshadow and all that with my Makeup Geek eyeshadows. I only have 5 of them. These are basically the only 5 shades you need for an everyday look. I have Vanilla Bean, Peach Smoothie, Creme Brulee, Frappe, and I have Cocoa Bear. So these are the ones I'm going to be using to show you guys today. They're very warm, very neutral. For eyeshadows, there are many different kinds of brushes you can use. I have just a few to show you here. For blending the eyeshadow, my favorite one is the Sigma E40. This one is a well-loved brush. It's great for blending out anything. I also have a few here from Morphe. Yes, they all look similar. No, they don't all do the same thing. So some of these are longer haired brushes. Some of them are more densely packed. The denser it is, the more product, like the more shadow and pigment it will put on your eye. Usually the ones that are fluffier and less packed, those are the ones you want to use to blend. And then the more dense packed ones, those are the ones where you want to apply the product and blend it out a little, put it where you want it, and then go in with a less dense brush and blend it out. So here I have the Morphe M441. This one is a great blending brush. Highly recommend it. I have the Morphe M521. This one's a little bit flatter, so it looks more like a paddle. I have the Morphe R40. I have the Morphe R37, and I have the R38. For applying shadow to the lid, my favorite brush is the Sigma Large Shader E60. It's a very flat brush, as you can see. This, when you pick up product, you can perfectly apply it to the lid, pack it on, and it'll be super vibrant. For applying a brow bone highlight, my favorite one is the Eye Shading E55 from Sigma. This one, it's a very densely packed brush. Usually when I do my eyeshadow, I like to bake my eyebrows. If you don't know what baking is, it's basically for under your eyes. You just put an excess amount of powder so that way then your body heat warms it, and whatever cream is under it will really be set into your skin and won't budge at all. It'll also make it look brighter. I don't like my eyeshadow going too high on my eye, so when I bake it, it basically takes away the product that's up here, so either when I blend it out, my eyeshadow is at the level where I want it and it's perfectly blended. Then I have lower lash brushes. So the most common lower lash brush is the pencil brush. This one is from Sigma, it's the E30. I also have these three from Morphe. These two are the same. They're extremely tiny, so they're perfect for going in with deeper shades on the outer corner. And then this one's the E18, and then these are the E36. So this one's a little bit larger. You would want to apply the transition shade on the bottom lash line with this one, and then apply the deeper shades with these. That is everything eye brushes. First things first, since I already set my eyelids, I don't need to go in with Vanilla Bean to set them. So I'm going to go straight into Peach Smoothie using the R40 from Morphe. And this is going to be my transition shade. I'm going to zoom you guys in. So first I'm going to take this shade, I'm going to look a little bit down, and I'm going to start blending it in circular motions right into my crease, above my crease, and basically everywhere. The transition shade you use because once you start applying darker shades, if you don't have a shade under it to blend into, then the darker shade will look very harsh. It won't look as blended as you'd want it. That's why you should never go in with darker shades first. You always want to start off light and work your way darker. I'm going to blend this in windshield wiper motions and in circular motion. As you can see, this gives my eye just the slightest bit of depth, but it will make it so it's easier for us to blend all the other colors. Another thing is, when you're blending, you want to hold the end of the brush. You don't want to hold the brush up here, because when you hold the brush up here, you put a lot more pressure, which will deposit a lot more pigment. So you want to hold the brush towards the tip, so when you blend, it has a very light touch to it, so it blends everything seamlessly, and there's no harsh lines, there's no harsh pigment, everything's just nice and blended. Okay, now that that shadow's in the crease, I'm going to go in with the next shade, which is Frappe, I believe. No, Creme Brulee. And I'm taking the Morphe R38. This is just a slightly smaller brush. The deeper the shade, the smaller the brush you want to use, just so that way then it doesn't go everywhere and it stays exactly where you want it to be. So I'm going to apply it more directly in the crease. I'm not going to apply it super high. I'm going to keep it as close to the crease as possible and then blend it out in small circular motions. Now that those two are even, I'm going to go in with the Sigma R40 with no product whatsoever, and I'm just going to blend the two of them together. This one you can go in really big circular motions just to make sure that everything is evenly blended. Once that is done, I'm going to go in with the Morphe M521 and the shade Frappe, which is the next darker shade. You always want to also tap off the excess of your shadows, just so then you don't apply too much. Remember, work your way from less, keep building it up. You don't want to start with too much because then you can't take it away as easily. So this one is a little bit more tightly densed. It's a lot skinnier, more of a paddle styled brush. So it's going to place it directly in the crease where we want it. So this one I'm going just a tiny bit lower than the color Creme Brulee, and I'm not taking it in as far into my inner corner as I did the other two shades. So I'm keeping it right at the outer half, and I'm going to blend it in. Once I have the product laid down, I'm going to go back in with the Sigma E40, and I'm going to blend them all together. Blending is a process, but just remember, the more you blend, the better your eyeshadow will look. So if one day you're doing your eyeshadow and you don't know why it doesn't look as good, I would say pick up the transition shade. Like I used Peach Smoothie, I would pick it up and I would just start blending it out until it looked as good as it could, and then I would keep going. You also have to remember, eyeshadow looks sometimes don't look as good until you're actually done with all your makeup. Don't get discouraged. It happens to all of us. Sometimes you may put on eyeshadow, you don't have your eyeliner or mascara on yet, you don't have your eyebrows done, and you may think it looks terrible. But in reality, once you finish everything, it may look amazing. Just keep trying, keep going. Practice makes perfect. Your eyeshadow will get there. Once those shades are applied, I'm going to go in with the Morphe M433. This is a much smaller brush. And I'm going to take the shade Cocoa Bear, which is the darkest one here in the palette. Going to tap off the excess, and I'm going to apply this to the outer V. The outer V of your eye is basically right here at the edge, and you want to bring it onto the lid at the end. And that will give your eye a more lifted cat eye appearance. Once you start blending it, you'll see that it'll start giving it that shape. You also don't want to go too high with this color, because since it is the deepest color, you want to keep it lower than all the other ones, just so it has a nice gradient from bottom to top. Once you have the product blended out as much as possible with that brush, I'm going to go back in with the Sigma E40, no color added, and I'm going to blend once again in circular and windshield wiper motion. Once all of the crease shadows are on, I'm going to take the Sigma E60 large shader brush and the shade Creme Brulee, and I'm going to pack this onto my lid so then we can, blend everything together nicely. Usually I like putting a shimmer on the lid, but for this video I'm doing an all matte look. Mattes are some of the easiest to work with. You just have to get used to how they apply. It also depends on the shadow, if it's super pigmented, if it isn't as pigmented. That all depends on the brand, the eyeshadow, the palette, things like that. Once I apply the eye base, I'm going to blend it. I am also going to take the E55 eye shading brush with the same color, and I'm going to pack this on my brow bone. This is how I like to make my eye shape. So I will pack it as low as I want, and then when I blend it, the eyeshadow will go up just a tiny bit. But I do like to leave some excess powder up here just so I can blend it away and have that baking effect. Now that that powder is sitting there, I'm going to move on to the lower lash line. For the lower lash line, I basically do more or less the same thing as I do in the upper lash line. I just copy it towards the bottom. That's the easiest way to do the lower lash line, is copying the top of the bottom. Now once, let's say, you get a little more experience with eyeshadow, then you can start doing crazy things and put glitter and, glitter liner, things like that. But to keep it simple, I am just going to go in and copy what's on the top on the bottom. I'm first starting with the E18 and the shade Peach Smoothie, and I'm running this all along the lower lash line. It doesn't add much color, but it does give enough powder, so when you put the other ones on top, you can blend them seamlessly. Then I'm going in with the E36 and a mix of the shade Creme Brulee and Frappe, and I'm going to apply this from the middle to the outer corner. Then I'm going to take my second E36 and go in with the shade Cocoa Bear, which is the darkest one, and I'm going to apply this on the outer edge. You also want to connect it to the top, just so the eye look, when you look from the side, it's all continuous. Then I'm going to go in with the clean pencil brush and just blend them all together. Now that the lower lash line's done, I'm going to go in with the Sigma E40 one more time and blend away the brow bone bake. Now I'm going to apply a little bit of the Vanilla Bean shade, and I'm going to apply it to my inner corner just to highlight a little. And that's it. The eye look's done. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope I gave as many tips as I could. But yeah, if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.